there. Thanks for watching. I'm going to be sharing my April recap, going over my budget numbers, my wins, my fails, things that happened this month, and then kind of things that I've been using over future long-term plans, and then going into the specific planning for May, this upcoming month. So starting with the budget numbers, and I've really only been tracking 3 main categories because all my other expenses are pretty fixed in terms of housing, utilities, insurance, any deductions, etc. And the expenses that I've been tracking the most closely are groceries, food and drink, food out, and then shopping, which I'm on this low buy year, so shopping has been extremely minimal. I have some money set aside for personal, but I haven't really spent that. I'm looking at my numbers right now. So for groceries, I spent $688.35, which to me is below my normal of about $800 a month. We live in a very high cost of living area, and I cook a lot. We cook a lot and tend to eat pretty healthfully: fruit, vegetables, meat, protein, lean protein, and the like. We just cook a lot. I cook to save money and to connect with my family. And then food and drink was $288.76, which is about normal. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised to see that groceries number was lower. And I think the reason for that there were a couple reasons. We traveled a bit. So we were in Delaware and didn't spend as much on groceries, which is good, and still managed to eat fairly healthfully. And the food and drink was a little bit lower too. Well, usually right on, because I usually have $800 for groceries, $200 for food out. About $1,000 a month, that's where it is. So anytime that number is below 1,000, that's lower than expected, which is good. What is that? Yeah, 957. Okay, all right. It was 1,004 last month, so that's where we are. So those are the main details that I tracked. My fixed expenses were what they were. And my shopping, I spent $70, and I'll tell you what for. They were for our Easter clothes. For Easter, we went to a restaurant, as has been the tradition for the past, I'm gonna say 5 years. Actually, ever since I started seeing my now husband, we've gone to an Easter buffet at a restaurant with his family, and my mom would come down. So this is the first meal that we've had at that restaurant. No, I think second meal we've had with the baby. We did Thanksgiving last year with the baby, so this is the first Easter, and I wanted us to have clothes, and I think $70 was well within my budget, and I'm so happy with the way things turned out. The weather was beautiful. I think that we did great as far as that goes. My budget was $100, and I came in at $70, so that's where we landed, and that was my spending. Literally the only thing I spent beyond food this month. That's it. That's all I spent. So doing well as far as the low buy year goes. So my wins were that I brought in some additional income online. We're not talking thousands of dollars. My goal for the month was to bring in $1,000 additional. That didn't happen, and I knew that it wouldn't, because the way I have done in the past, brought in $1,000 additional dollars. And the way I've done that is by selling things online. And it was a lot of work and a lot of hustle, and it just isn't sustainable for this point in my life. So I knew I could have done that. I would have killed myself, and it wouldn't have been sustainable long term. So again, that wasn't what I chose to do this month. I thought, let me take a step back, let me be more strategic and put more resources into developing online sources of income that would be sustainable. So that's what I did. And I had one Etsy sale for $10.16, $10.16, which is interesting because that's my birthday. So somebody bought, thank you to this person, actually somebody I think who might be local from their email address, local to me at my mom's house in Jersey. So they bought the 12-week transformation workbook, and I will leave a link to that down below to my Etsy shop. And so thank you, that person. And then I had an Amazon affiliate income, and I just forgot something else, another source. For $13.02, that was my Amazon affiliates. And this is the most exciting one of all. Somebody joined my Patreon before I was ready for them to do that, but I'm so glad that they did. So that was an extra $5, bringing my grand total to $28. and 18 cents. I can do math. Yes, $28.18, which is so exciting. So here's a story with the Patreon. I am working on that. And where I'm stuck is I'm not really sure the direction I want to go. Is this going to be a place where people can kind of get help with their own money and have people hold them accountable for their own numbers and getting their numbers kind of together? Similar to my first sort of experience getting my numbers straight was through Debtors Anonymous, and I had this idea that I would use those similar principles in this setting, and that the only difference is convenience and immediacy. It would be the difference between similar to going to a library versus buying the book on Barnes and Noble or Amazon or something. So that was my idea for the Patreon, but right now I have 2 posts up and they're very personal. So I could probably do both now that I'm thinking about it out loud. I can definitely do both. So that's probably what I will do. I haven't put much up there because I am not sort of 100% on how I want to do that. But at the moment, this person just supported me, and I'm so thankful for that support. That's huge right now. An extra $5 goes a long way. Because in my last video I mentioned I'm going underwater due to a lower take-home income due to more health insurance costs coming out. So there's that. So wins were this total of $28.18 in online income, which is like $23 more than I made last month. So that's very exciting. And I haven't been tracking my online income because it hasn't been anything spectacular, but I think I will start to track because words of Peter Drucker, what gets measured gets managed, and we want to measure that online income, so I will start to track that more carefully. Fails. So this is a pretty big one. Not a great one. So fails, I found out that I have to repay some of the maternity leave money that I got last year. In a previous video, I forget which one, I was like, oh, look, I managed to save all this money because it was a forced savings of a month when I didn't have any income and I was living on nothing, and somehow I ended up with $5,000 extra. Yeah, no, not the case. I have to repay some of that because the way the state works, they didn't ask me when I was planning on returning to work. They just paid me the full amount and then asked me after the fact when I returned to work. And then I have to repay everything that came after when I returned to work. And it's just not a huge mess. It's very simple and maddeningly, frustratingly inefficient, which so far, like my experience with the state has been nothing but frustratingly inefficient. The woman that I spoke to on the phone was the sweetest that I've ever spoken, just so very understanding, but I'm like, it really wasn't my mistake because I was never asked when I was going to return to work until after they paid the money. So you would think, state, you would say, hey, when are you planning to return to work, and then pay out through that, but they did not do that. So just really inefficient. And if anything, they should be anyway. I don't want to, ultimately it falls on me. It's my responsibility to get this straightened out. So what the woman on the phone said was, just treat it like a loan with 0% interest. And I'm like, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. So that's what I'm doing. And it's very frustrating because it puts me further back from where I was, so I'm not as far as I was, but I'm not where I was, not as bad as I was. So I'm not as far ahead as I thought I was, but I'm not as far back as I was, say, this time last year. This time last year I was sitting on $12,000 of credit card debt. So that's where that is. And I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm just going to continue on. I'm going to make monthly payments. I'm going to make the lowest possible payments that I possibly can on that. I can't dwell on that too much. So that was a fail for the month. Future plans. So this is where I've been thinking about my future and what I want to do with my life, the direction I want to go. In particular, how I am going to increase my income. Because if I'm honest, the past 10 years were focused on, I've been, maintaining my career and doing what I need to and kind of building my resume and working. I've always worked. But I hadn't been really focused on increasing my income. I'd been thinking about, building a family, becoming the type of partner that I wanted to attract, which I've done. And if I'm honest, I have never felt so happy and uplifted. And my goal is to be such a good steward of this relationship and this family that I have been blessed with, because I never want to take that for granted. I thought that it would just come, and it didn't. And it took me 10 years to become the type of person who would attract this family. And now that I have it, I always want to maintain a sense of gratitude for what I have. That said, it took me 10 years to get here. If it takes me 10 years to increase my income and build the savings that I want to build, then I am fine with that. So I'm like, if I start from this point going forward, so really Easter of 2023, I'll say, because I had just kind of a passing discussion with a family member that was kind of helpful as far as spacing out my career. So if it takes me 10 years to increase my income to the level I would like it to be increased to, I'm fine with that. Good Lord willing, those 10 years will pass anyway, so I want to really kind of go full out in terms of increasing my income. So there's my W-2 job, and then there's sort of my online income, my personal business, and I know that I can grow them both together. Where do I want to focus? And in terms of my W-2 income, what's the next step? And I don't say I hate to admit it, because that's just kind of the next step. Would probably be either doing a PMP certification or getting an MBA. And so I had looked into the PMP certification. It wouldn't directly affect what I'm doing now. I think getting an MBA might be the way to go. Just kind of like a box to check is what I've heard people say. It's like when you're applying for a new job, they would say MBA preferred, and I'm like, okay, well, let's look at that. So that's what I'm looking at right now, as far as the next step in my career. And then there are tons of things to weigh with that. Do I go with a name that also has a cost associated with it, or do I want to do the cheapest possible degree that I can? And again, I could make a whole video going into that. I've done calculations as well, where you can kind of project your post MBA salary minus your current salary over the cost of the program, and that's your return on investment. And for me, it would be about 1.75. I just did the calculations, because the average salary with an MBA is about 100K. So it would be a 1.75 return on investment, which is pretty decent. And I'm thinking overall in terms of my goals for my life. What is my goal? Time and money freedom. That is my goal. Right now, luxury is space. That is the biggest luxury. Like, it's not designer handbags or the best car, or any of these sort of add-ons. It's space and time. So this is my ultimate goal. Time and money freedom, surrounded by the people I love in an enjoyable environment. The goal is not to make 6 figures or to live a lavish lifestyle. The goal is to have time and money freedom, surrounded by the people I love in an enjoyable environment, which, to be frank, I have so much of that right now. So it's preparing for the future demands and being able to meet them. And I would say life is better with money, but if you have more money, it certainly doesn't make things worse. I mean, there are problems that come with it, new level, new devil, but I know that this is something that I can achieve. So I will be continuing to work on that. How am I also doing that? I'm doing a lot of personal development work, which again, I'll make a whole other video on. So that's what I've been thinking about lately in terms of my future. And again, just huge appreciation for everything I have now. And if anyone's wondering, because I would be wondering that, the pen that I've been loving lately is this Pilot G-Tech C4. It's amazing. And I've been writing in my plum paper planner, which I have been loving lately. And what I do is I track. The biggest thing I track is what I make for dinner every night. So that is where we are. And I've been using this side rail to write out quotes and focuses for the month. Also, April, as far as the recap goes, was the first month that we filed taxes together, which I'm really proud of getting done and out of the way. Happy to have that done. Okay, so plans for May. Memorial Day at the end of the month, and budgeting for summer clothes for the baby, which the baby will need. And potentially a new stroller, but I think I have like some slush funds set aside, some like cash set aside for that. I'm hoping to get it gently used on Marketplace. That's the hope. So that's the plan for May. So that's my recap. That's what I got for you. Recap of April, plan, for May, and my future thoughts about what I'm going to do with my life going forward. thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or you'd like to know more about anything, just let me know in the comments. I love answering questions. I love hearing from you. How was your April? How was your May so far? I know we're one day into it. I'd love to hear more from you. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope, as always, you'll keep watching. Bye.